Hello, welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible change in your life. This week we're going to be discussing Dragon Magick and Draconic Wicca and what the differences between the two are. So stay tuned. Hello everyone, I'm Drake. This week we're going to be talking about something I've been getting a lot of questions about over the last few weeks, and I got it a lot when I released the Dragon Magick versus Draconian Magick's video, breaking down the two different systems. And after last week's video when we covered the core tools to Dragon Magick, as I teach it and as the dragons have laid it out to me, I got a lot of questions concerning the same topic again. And that falls into Draconic Wicca. And this is a tricky topic because there are a lot of people who come to Dragon Magick from a Wiccan perspective. So the first thing is Dragon Magick and Draconic Wicca the same? Ultimately, the answer to that's no. They overlap at places, or at least can overlap. Or they can be two completely separate things. Well, Dragon Magick can be separated. Draconic Wicca, it does utilize aspects of Dragon Magick, but it does mix that with aspects of Wicca as well. So let's talk about that real quick. Well, so we'll start with Dragon Magick because it's really the core of the entire topic. Now, Dragon Magick is specifically a system of magic where you work with dragons. And you work with the dragons as guardians, as allies, as friends, as teachers. And from that foundation, you can actually venture to any other system of magic still working with dragons as well as the other entities. But the big focus for Dragon Magick does come down to balance. Now, that said, dragons, people find them harsh at times, and they can be pretty strict teachers. They don't really deal well with laziness. They don't deal well with procrastination. So they are kind of real strict, come on, let's get it done teachers. And now they do understand, like if you have a busy life and you're constantly getting slammed, that's one thing. But if that's not the case and you're just not doing the ritual work because you just don't want to, you don't feel like it because, I don't know, you'd rather play a video game today, that's not going to sit well with them. Discipline and a drive to succeed and persevere actually is something that's very important to dragons. They consider that honorable. So, it's part of that respect and just integrity. So they want to see you strive to achieve, and they want to see you apply yourself, and they want to see you work to achieve it. So yeah, they are very dedicated. So Dragon Magick can be an extremely dedicated and hard path for some people. Some people really aren't ready to jump in and do that work. Now, with that said, since dragons do focus on balance and highly prize that balance, it is practically impossible to walk a path in Dragon Magick of any kind, spiritual or just magical, and not be willing to face your personal darkness, your personal shadow, head on. So you will be facing your fears, the things that scare you, the things you hate about yourself, your guilt, all those things. You're going to be facing those head on at some point when working in Dragon Magick. That's part of balance. You can't have light without darkness, and vice versa. Now, that said, Wicca in general, most people find it to be very easy going. It's everyone has their own path kind of thing. It's real casual. You can practice when you want. But Wicca is also first and foremost a religion. Witchcraft can be viewed as a magic and is often viewed as magic only. But Wicca is a spiritual religion. Even if it's solitary, it is still a spiritual religion that you have honoring deities and worshiping deities. Whereas dragon magic itself is just a system of magic. It's not really worship or religion or even spirituality. So this is the first big deviation. Now, at this point in time, I've been doing a lot of work, and there doesn't seem to be any truly dedicated books on Draconic Wicca. So that said, what a lot of people are doing is they take DJ Conway's works, which are very light, easygoing guides to dragon magic. I mean, you read them, and some people will even still think those are harsh, but she does take a very eased in, very light approach to dragon magic. And they will take those two, they will take DJ Conway's books, and they will take Wicca, and they'll buy all the classical books on Wicca, Scott Cunningham's Guide to the Solitary Practitioner, and they will merge the two and overlap them and create a practice from that. Now, traditionally I shouldn't say traditionally, I will say for the most part, I have met two types of Draconic Wiccan practitioners, and I have met quite a few of them. Easily 20 that I talked to over the last week before making this video to kind of get their input. Because, as you all probably know, I'm not really one who considers myself spiritual or religious. If there's anything spiritual about me, it's my exploration of magic and wanting to improve myself that really makes me kind of look spiritual, because I am about self-improvement, but that's about as far as I go. And religious, I am not. I do not worship or honor any particular divinity over me. I guess I got enough of that when I was young, and it left a bad taste in my mouth. Got nothing against it. A lot of people have wonderful success with it. It's just not been my cup of tea, or coffee for that matter. Sorry about that. It's been a long day. So I did have to make some coffee. Okay. So, after that, what are those two major types of Draconic Wicca that we've encountered? Well, first one is, it is basically Wicca, only you replace the elements with dragons. So earth, air, fire, water, and spirit are replaced with draconic entities. So instead of just the elements acting as the quarters called during the Wiccan rituals, they would actually contact the dragon guardians, or what most people would refer to as the dragon rulers. So the earth, air, fire, and water rulers would be called to the circle to hold the quarters during the Wicca ritual. And from my talking with the four base elemental rulers, they love doing this. They enjoy it. They have a lot of fun working with Wiccan practitioners in this manner. Whether they want to call it Draconic Wicca or not, they don't care. They love having fun, and they love helping out in rituals. So, and since Wicca does focus on a very nature-based religion, you really can't focus on nature without skirting and crossing the balance line somewhere. So they appreciate that. It is true, dragon magic itself isn't overly nature-based. But since nature-based does cross that balance line easily, they love it all the same. And that's what they do. And they still have their goddess, they still have their god as traditional. Whatever god or goddess that particular individual would worship. Whether it be the Morgan, Hecate, Aphrodite, or just the triple goddess in general. Same thing as the green man, the horn god, any of the god aspects that you could possibly think of to worship in Wicca. So they still have the god and goddess there. Now, a lot of practitioners will say that dragons are above gods. That kind of bothers me from time to time because dragons don't view anything as divinity in general. But dragons don't put themselves above gods, but they don't see divinity as divinity. They just see it as, You're an entity, I'm an entity. You got your skill set, I got my skill set. Moving on. So they see it as kind of an equal playing field. But there are definitely practitioners who do say that Draconic Wicca should put the dragons above the gods. And then there's others that disagree with that. They say the gods are above the dragons. That will put you into a philosophical roundabout that you will never get out of, because it is strictly going to be based on your opinion. Because in my experience, no deity or dragon cares. I've never worked with a deity that gave one crap about how I viewed the dragons. And I know the dragons don't give a crap how I view the deities. As long as we're all working together and getting something accomplished, everybody's happy. Now, that said, the second group of Draconic Wiccan practitioners is the ones that put actual dragons or dragon deities into those god and goddess spots. Some of them actually use dragon deities and gods that I'm not sure where they're getting their source material from. I'm going to guess that it's something that they received from Gnosis or someone else's grimoire. But I've not explored it too deeply, so I'm going to say it's very possible. Some of these gods and goddesses, yeah, I've heard of them. Probably the most popular name that'll pop up is Tiamat. That's often one that's placed in the goddess position. I've also seen Leviathan placed in that position. Though Leviathan's often looked as a demonic entity, it can also be viewed as a dragon. In fact, in my experience, Leviathan is a dragon. It may be a demonic dragon, but it is a dragon. Or a dragon that works with demons, however you want to view that. But again, that goes into the philosophical. And I've seen it in both the god and goddess, because that is one of those entities that does appear male and female depending on the person. So yeah, its gender gets swapped around a lot, which isn't unusual. We've seen goddesses and gods get their gender swapped around throughout history. Those are the two major branches of Draconic Wicca that I've encountered over the years. The one difference between most Draconic Wicca practices and traditional Wicca is it does seem to be a bit more harsher. It does seem to, where they are working with dragons, and dragons do have that hard drive, that harshness we talked about. As nice, wise, and caring as they can be, they are a demanding person to learn from. A lot of people who pursue Wicca, they don't like that demanding style, so that may not be the correct path for them. And that does seem to be the case with a lot of the Draconic Wicca practitioners I've encountered. They give me feedback about how much more harsh and committed that path is to traditional Wicca. That said, I have met a few that honestly they didn't find it any harsher. And perhaps it's just the issues that the people's working on. Maybe there's a lot of factors that could go into that, but I can only give you the numbers as I know them. Now, in Draconic Wicca, I've noticed that for the most part, the tools do stay the same as traditional Wicca. Though a lot of them do actually go in and use the same tools in the same methods that Conway lists in her book. So a lot of Wicca practices, some do, but a lot do not use a sword, for example. Draconic Wiccans almost always seem to have a sword on hand or a dagger. Well, daggers are, Athames and Wicca are a big deal. So the sword being added in. A lot of them do carry a staff. Conway did touch on the staff in some respects in her books. So you will see the tools of Wicca overlapping with the tools of dragon magic in Draconic Wicca. I personally do not feel I'm qualified to teach Draconic Wicca. I was initiated and I did practice Wicca for a long time, but it wasn't me. It's not the path I walk. But I would hope that some point, someday, one of the practitioners who has been doing it a while will perhaps publish a book with more path workings and more details, and actually fully flesh out the tradition a bit more, or at least their version of that tradition, to make it more available to people. Now, that said, early in my dragon magic career, well, I shouldn't say early, it's probably 4 or 5 years in at least, because I'll be honest, I started practicing dragon magic before YouTube and the internet really took off. I did stumble across a YouTube channel that the young lady was talking about Draconic Wicca. And at this point in time, I was studying dragon magic and I was studying Wicca. I kept them separate, but I was still studying and looking into both of them. And she had a lot of great insights on Draconic Wicca and how the two can blend together really well. So I was watching a lot of her videos to see if, in my case, could I blend them and make it work. Now, personally, I couldn't. It wasn't something that resonated with me. And I'm going to have to ponder that and probably talk about that sometime. But right now, that's the best I can say, is it just didn't resonate for me. I'd have to look back in my journals to figure out, to actually remember the detailed reasons on that. But her channel, she went over it really well. She covered all the information. She gave her experiences. I even remember one time in one of her videos, she talked about how she stepped away from Draconic Wicca for a while because she didn't have the time to dedicate to such a intense and dedicated path. But she did go back to it when she had the time. So I did check before I filmed this, and her channel's still up. So if you want to check her out, definitely do. I doubt she knows who I am. If she does, awesome. But I don't know. And she doesn't know I'm giving her a shout out, but what the hell. Her name's Azure Dragon Feather. Check her out on YouTube. She has a lot of great videos on Draconic Wicca. She does definitely follow the DJ Conway's traditions. So if you're wanting to get outside those DJ Conway books, which I'll be honest, a lot of my viewers, that's one of the big things I get, is they want something beyond Conway's works. That is something to note. Her tradition is based off of your traditional Wicca as well as Conway's works. But she does have a lot of good insights. And as I tell people, just because something based off of a work that you may not care for, you find too light and fluffy, it's good to look into other people's experiences with it. And this young lady has definitely done a lot of work and put a lot of time into her channel and sharing her experiences. So right now, she is the go-to person that I know about when it comes to Draconic Wicca. And I would encourage you to pop over and check her out for sure. In fact, I will try to drop a link to her channel in the description below, because it's worth the channel. It's worth checking it out. Now, that said, dragon magic itself doesn't really contain the religious or the side of it. So, you know, the holiday rituals and stuff like that that one would practice in Wicca, dragon magic doesn't really have so much because it's more just the magic. Now, in Draconic Wicca, they actually do celebrate all the holidays the same as they would with any other Wiccan practice. And they can use both dragons and or deities or both. In fact, one practitioner I know, they practice it traditionally, though dragons were more focused on the equinox and the solstices. So they honor the gods and goddesses as normal, and they honor the dragons, the elemental rulers that preside over those equinoxes and solstices during those times as well. And there are some practitioners who, like I said, if you're only using dragons, you got to find a dragon that fits into that holiday's energy and theme to make it work. And with the 9 elemental rulers, it's really not that hard. I mean, for example, like if I was wanting to do a Yule ritual, that is a ritual that's going to be definitely tied to winter as well as the dark half of the year and the coming half of the light year. So, you know, the light's coming back. So The three dragons that come to my mind for this are definitely the Earth ruler, the ruler of the darkness dragons, and the ruler of the light dragons. All three of these are definitely dragons you could utilize. Now, how I would utilize them, I'm not 100% sure. See, that's something else I would need to think about. Because if you're working it in the traditional holiday method, the winter solstice is celebrating the longest night of the year. So to me, that does say that that darkness dragon really should be there. But the light's also coming back. It's ushering in that era, that time of the year where everything's getting lighter and warmer. So to me, I personally think that the light dragon should be there. Winter is the season most associated with earth element. If I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head, I should take notes. So therefore, the earth ruler would be playing a part there. So you can see how all these things could tie together. So in my ritual, I'd want to incorporate all these elements. If I was to do a winter solstice based around dragons, which if that's something you all want to see, let me know and I'll actually flesh it out a bit more, definitely. So yeah, that's really what I've found over the last 15 or so years, is that Draconic Wicca, though there's a lot of practitioners out there, many of them don't talk about it. Many people just call themselves pagan, or they might even just say Wicca, when they're actually a Draconic Wicca practitioner, because they don't want to take the time to try and explain what they're doing, because to the best of my knowledge at this time, there's not a fully fleshed out Book of Shadows, grimoire, teaching set of books, whatever you want to call them, that fleshes out a Draconic Wicca path, which for those Draconic Wicca practitioners out there, I really hope someone steps up and does it at some point. In fact, I'm actually wondering if Azure Dragonfeather hasn't done so already. If she has, I would love to read her book. But yeah, it really is an amalgam of the Wicca tradition and dragon magic. So you really need to understand and study both of those. And with that understanding, I would encourage you to take both of those and merge them together into a path that works well for you, that is right for you, if Draconic Wicca is something you're wanting to do. Because, like I've said in many of my videos, the beauty of dragon magic is it is a path of balance that you can walk. And no matter where you go, that foundation will go with you and transfers easily. Now, normally I talk about whether you want to work with demons or angels or different deities, because I do speak about it from more of a major magician perspective, and I do try to leave the religion and the dogma out. However, when we're talking Wicca, I can't do that. There's no way to leave religion and dogma out and talk about Draconic Wicca. So with that said, if you practice dragon magic and you wish to pursue a spiritual or religious path like Wicca, or even druids, I know some draconic druids, and they do fascinating work, fascinating. That dragon magic can move over real easily because the dragons are willing to work with any entities. The thing is, when you start to set up your particular path of Draconic Wicca, you need to answer a few questions for yourself. Where do the god and goddess fit? Will you use traditional Wiccan god and goddesses, or will you attempt to seek out dragons to fill those god and goddess roles? How will you handle honoring the dragons and the gods and goddesses during holidays? And what ritual setups will you use? How will you incorporate dragons into the traditional Wiccan rituals? Now, the last one's probably the easiest, because where the dragons are very elemental beings, you just plug the dragons in the element spots pretty easily. Personally, for the gods and goddesses one, if that was a path I was to pursue, I do remember how I thought about that. Since dragons do not view divinity as divinity, and gods I've never encountered a situation where gods and goddesses got pissy about the dragons being there. I would have actually put a god and goddess into the position of god and goddess. Since god and goddess to a dragon it's as much a title. It's just a title. It's a position. It's a job. It's like doctor or lawyer to them. So it's like when you're talking about the elemental rulers, the elemental ruler is not a draconic god. It's just a position and a job that's held by that old and powerful dragon. So you could easily just hold god and goddess up to that title ruler, and to the dragons it's the same flipping thing. But for me, I would actually have a traditional god and goddess in those roles, and I would have the rulers do what they do when working with the elements and dragons. And yeah, I would just work with them both. I wouldn't exclude the god and goddesses from the traditionals. I really wouldn't. That was my personal take on it back then. I never got to flesh it out, never got to see where I would go with that, because I realized at some point the religious, spiritual side wasn't for me personally as a magician. And I don't regret it. I've grown a lot and I've learned a lot since then, not having that in my path. For a lot of people, they're going to get the same growth I got by having it. We're all very different people. We all have very different paths. Now, with that said, I should have said this sooner, but every dragon magician who follows dragon magic, their path is going to be an individual path. It's going to be very different. Just like Conway's system of dragon magic and my system of dragon magic are very, very different. She received her system from the dragons. They taught her a system that was presented for some people and was correct for the time it was released. And they taught me a system. And they are encouraging me to release and to teach it, and that's what I'm doing. And I don't know if it's right for the times. I don't know if it's just there's people who need that system. I don't know why they're wanting that, but that's what they're wanting, and that's what I'm trying to do. So those are two different systems. Thing is, I've encountered other people who still have further other systems. Everyone will have their own system. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. One of the things you all have heard me say is when I practice magic, it is a results-based practice. If my practice is bringing and yielding me the results I'm looking for, and it's working for me, that's all I need. That's it. I'm good. And that's the path I'm going to continue to walk. Now, that said, if someone does something completely opposite from me, and what they're doing does not work for me in any shape, form, or fashion, that just means it's not right for me. Because if they're yielding the results they're looking for and it's working for them, more power to them. You keep rocking that path. And when it comes to dragon magic and draconic Wicca, that is the attitude we need to take. Whether you just want to practice dragon magic or whether you want to incorporate it into your Wiccan practice and call your practice Draconic Wicca. Forge your path, find what works for you. And if it's working for you, move on, tear it up. Get in there, dive in there, and grow and be the best you can be. Now, always be honest with yourself. No matter what path you walk, always be honest. So if something in your path isn't working for you, let's say you went down the Draconic Wicca path and you found something that really isn't resonating, it isn't working the way you thought it should, that's okay. And that doesn't mean you have to trash your path in Draconic Wicca. Just look at that one thing. Just examine that one thing. Find out why it's not working. What can you change about that one thing? What can you alter your path, your Draconic Wicca path, to make it work? See, if you work on your path in that way, you slowly forge ahead in your path. Now, if you wake up one day and it's not just one thing and you realize the whole path ain't working, then you need to reevaluate the whole package. But if it's just one thing, just evaluate the one thing and tweak it. It's an ongoing growth process. We all grow. We all change. We all adapt. Even my path in Dragon Magic has grown, changed, and adapted. I started in Conway's system. That's how I found out about Dragon Magic to begin with. And I moved over to trying to incorporate dragon magic with other systems of magic and tinkering with rituals in multiple areas that I knew. So, like dragon magic and ceremonial magic. I was asked a question whether or not you could utilize dragons in the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. From that, we actually did come up with a draconic version of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And it worked. And many of my ceremonial magician friends who practiced religiously, they absolutely fell in love with the way it worked, the energy it raised, how it felt similar and different. But it was still a very ceremonial magic thing, and I still know the ritual, but I haven't used it in years because, again, my path progressed even further past that. So those changes and those growths, they happen. They're natural. Don't worry about them. Actually work with them. Expect them. And they will help you grow as a practitioner. So whether it's just dragon magic or Draconic Wicca that you seek to follow, I wish you the best. I encourage you to do everything you can to learn about all sides of it. And I would encourage you to forge your path as an individual and trust yourself and your guides and the dragons and your gods and goddesses. And don't worry overly too much what other people say about it. Now, that said, if you want to ask me questions, contact me. True, I don't really do the religious thing, but I did study Wicca for many years, and I do study dragon magic. So I will answer questions as best I can. I'll do what I can to help y'all, just as I would anything else. That's why I'm here. But in the end, trust your gut, follow your instincts, and listen to your guides. And if your system and your practice is working for you, yielding the results you want, and helping you and be the best you can be, keep it up. With that said, do join us every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our live stream, The Research and Ramblings of a Mage. Also, we do release one video like this every Tuesday here on the channel. And we are currently working on a Dragon Magic 101 class for the online school, which you can find at workingdragonmystic.com. There you can find our merchandise store where you can get the canvas prints of the Dragon Eye Seal, both the standard and artistic. And you'll find a link to all the courses and classes. Currently we have a meditation class and a arcane sight class already live, up, ready to go. And we are adding more classes. Anyways, I'm Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.